Hi, air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. This is your weekly forecast for the 6th through the 12th of November. Just a side note, I am now on Etsy in addition to my .com business. It's a really nice way for you to work with me if you've never worked with me before, because there are readings there for a deeply discounted price. So make sure if you have a question you'd like answered, you check that out. I've shuffled your deck and I have pulled your cards. This week is actually looking really good for you, but it's coming after a period of lots of worry, right? You got broken ring, parting of the ways in either romance or business, wishbone, a wish will not be granted. But I thought that was so interesting that that came out because it came after you got needle and thread, which says a sincere wish will be granted. You have pineapple, reconciliation, and lion, time to act, for your oracle cards. So what I'm seeing with this, because your energy of the week is the 9 of Swords, there's been a lot of worry going on, right? You actually have a card that says no need to worry. I feel like things have not been working out for you, and I see that you've been working really hard. So it's quite frustrating when you're feeling like you're hitting that brick wall. This week, whatever you've been worrying about, that's actually going to be resolved. But it's kind of weird because it's like the calm after the storm, right? You may have gotten very frustrated. I'm seeing cards like 8 of Swords, Strength in the reverse, Fool in the reverse. So it feels like every which way you try to go, you keep hitting these roadblocks, right? But what's really good about this is that it seems like you've had to confront something about yourself lately with the Strength in the reverse, like maybe your worst fears about what your future will look like. If you have to move on from somewhere where you are, what's left for you. Perhaps you spent a lot of time building something and it hasn't worked. And now you're looking and you're like, oh my gosh, this was like my last chance, right? Or if this is a relationship, you know, in the past, it doesn't look like you're in this now, but it looks like maybe you're thinking about that person and you're like, that was my last chance at love, right? The universe wanted you to confront that fear and get to a point where it's like, you know what? Even if I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, I'm going to be okay. Or even if I were to never see this person again or never fall in love again, I'm going to be okay, right? I can live my life on my own, or I can pivot and start that new business or look for that new job. The universe wanted you to get super secure within yourself. So that's why it kind of feels like nothing has been working for you. Or if you were like waiting on a reconciliation with someone, or you were trying to meet someone new, it doesn't feel like that's happened. This has been a time for deep reflection, okay? You got regret in the reverse, imagination in the reverse, and under that, perseverance, right? So it's almost like the universe was kind of testing your resolve of like, if you don't get what you want when you want it, what do you do? And when we get in those moments of like, nothing's working, or I have to change something about my life again, or the person that I want isn't in my life, it starts to really activate some of those deeper insecurities that we have, that sometimes when things are going right, we don't even notice, right? We think that we're healed, we think that we're good, but it's not how you behave in times of like abundance. It's how do you navigate the world in times where it feels like nothing is working, right? That's when some of that core wounding and those big triggers come out. How do you really feel about yourself when nothing is going right? Is that when your self-talk turns very negative, and then you have an internal dialogue that's like, well, I'm so stupid, or, you know, I'm so defective. Like, the universe was trying to get you to have to live in that space so that you could confront some of those limiting beliefs. It looks like perhaps you got them in childhood, because that's been a big part of what's stopping your show. But also, as you're moving into the next stage of your life, it's like you can't have that kind of negative self-talk anymore, right? You had to address that before you could come into this next stage, because what's happening next, it's going to happen quite fast, okay? But the thing is that it's going to happen as fast as you allow it. Once you start confronting some of these like lower vibrational beliefs you have about yourself, you will see that your life is changing very quickly. The hard part is that as soon as a shift happens, you may get really happy, and then you might turn back around and start sabotaging yourself with that kind of negative self-talk, okay? Because I'm seeing reasons to celebrate here. It looks like you're going to be getting some sort of information that is either in regards to love. So it could very well be that something that you want, but you think could never happen, ends up happening to you, right? If there's a specific person that you're like, oh, I just miss them so much, perhaps that's what this is about. There's also money on the board. So if you're like doing what's practical, right? I'm seeing with the wish that will not be granted and the parting of ways with a business or relationship. You know, if you're doing what's practical, but you have this sincere wish of like, wow, I really wish I could be an artist, right? That's kind of the Page of Cups energy in the middle of your spread. It doesn't have to be art. It could be anything you love, right? And that's kind of the feeling of like, man, I wish I could do this all day instead. It seems like that wish will be granted, right? But once that happens, and you will have a reason to celebrate, because it's like, oh my gosh, the storm is over. It looks like I might actually get the person I want. I might actually get to do what I want. You have to make sure that you stay out of that limiting mindset, right? You have to be certain with the Six of Swords as your obstacle and the remain positive in the reverse, that you don't end up worrying yourself out of something that's really good, right? You actually have reconsider, ask your angels. And so it feels like you might have a knee-jerk reaction to whatever this is and think like, oh, this is too good to be true. But your advice is actually the Eight of Pentacles in the reverse. So to me, I feel like that's not the case. It's like you've done the work on yourself that you needed to do to level up your life. And now this is a fruit of that labor, right? Kind of coming into contact with some of these more negative beliefs that you have. And unfortunately, because you don't feel that way 365, right? I feel like you try to remain optimistic through most things. But when things keep happening over and over and over, that's when you really get into this place of like, nothing works, things are the same, it's not going to change, it doesn't matter what I do. And you had to confront that narrative to be able to move on, right? So I feel like this is going to be a really good week for you. Something that you've been waiting for, you know, and maybe even secretly hoping for. It looks like it could be coming towards you now, because you've worked on yourself to the point that you don't have as much resistance to getting what you want, okay? As far as your advice goes, Eight of Pentacles in the reverse, if you have this opportunity that's so lovely to perhaps have more time, more money, or a partner that you are interested in, make sure that you're not shooting yourself in the foot by recreating a cycle or a pattern that the universe has worked so hard to get you out of, okay? If you need to take a step back, because I'm seeing that you just getting up and going for this might feel a little bit triggering, take your time. And that's absolutely okay, because you don't want to rush into something and then activate that like really negative self-talk when you feel dysregulated or you don't know what's going to happen next, right? But this truly is a blessing that's coming in for you because you've been doing a lot of work on yourself, and because you've faced some of these more negative beliefs that it feels like you have about yourself. And what I'll say about that is anything that's left your life, that was absolutely a product of who you used to be. And as you've been dealing with this Eight of Swords strength in the reverse combination, a lot of what you've built, it feels like it's either leaving, it's left, or if you tried to return to it, it wouldn't be working for you, okay? And that's because you've done this work to the point that certain things just don't resonate with you anymore, and that's okay. But you also have to be willing to allow the new things to come in without falling back into looking at the things that left and viewing those things as like nothing ever works. No, they worked. There was a time when these things did work, right? But you outgrew these things. And because you shifted, you are no longer aligned with whatever these are, right? And so if anything, not having certain people, not having certain opportunities in your life move the way that you want or be in your life, it's not evidence of failure, it's evidence of growth. You get what I'm saying? So for all the things in your life that you feel like don't work or haven't been working, look at that as evidence of the fact that something is working. You are shifting, so you're no longer aligned with a lot of the things in your life that at one time felt really right, and then suddenly maybe they didn't feel as right, and then suddenly they didn't work at all or they were gone. You get what I'm saying? Because as these good things are coming in for you and you have reason to celebrate, I don't want you to start reflecting on the things that haven't worked and then like letting that become a slippery slope where you think about all the things that didn't go right or all the times that you didn't feel like you were up to the challenge or didn't have the skill set or whatever it is. You get what I'm saying? If you find yourself reflecting on these things, which makes sense because anytime something new happens to us, our fear mind kind of kicks in and is like, hey, don't get your hopes up. Remember that last time? That's okay. It's trying to protect you, right? And so what you can say to that part of you is like, I appreciate you trying to protect me, right? But I need to act. I need to take action on this. And what you're reminding me, if anything, is evidence of my success, because look at how much I've grown. I've grown so much in myself that things were actually taken out of my life. I didn't even have to get rid of them myself. These things just left of their own accord to make room for something that I really do want, that now that I'm dealing with some of these feelings, I could actually receive, right? Because there's kind of a problem with being able to receive the things that you truly want, okay? So I would just keep that in mind. Go slow if you need to, because it looks like whatever this is, not only will it be something that you can celebrate, but it really could change your life, and so you might need to pick a slower pace just so that you don't fall back into old ways, right? Old thoughts. All right. Your oracle card for the week says, take in everything life has to offer, the happy and the sad. Trust that you are always where you should be and you are given the lessons you need to move forward. Kind of a deep reading. I'm sorry you've been dealing with this combo because it is hard when you're having to face like a lot of your inner critic or your inner shadow. But the more it gets exposed, right, the more you learn to deal with some of those words that it seems like you speak to yourself, or some of the beliefs that you've been holding that actually it seems like those are really the only thing that's keeping you from having what you want, okay? So what you want is on the way. Be good to yourselves. I will speak to you again soon. Bye.